Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is on the pros and cons of living in Shingle Springs, California, a beautiful little rural town. And by the end of this video, you should know whether Shingle Springs is right for your family or not. Starting with criteria number 1, great commute location. So like I said, criteria number 1 is great commute location. So where is Shingle Springs? Shingle Springs is situated on the western slope of the Sierra Nevada mountains in Northern California. It's about a 15-minute drive west of Placerville or downhill. Now, Placerville, if you're not familiar with where that is, if you've ever driven from San Francisco to Tahoe, you probably have stopped for gas in Placerville. Now, to put it another way, Shingle Springs is about 35 minutes east or uphill from the Capitol Steps in Sacramento, California. As such, it makes it a great commute location. Just 35 minutes to the Capitol is not a bad commute. Maybe that extends out to 45 to 50 minutes tops if you hit the worst of the worst commute times. Also, you don't have to go all the way to Sacramento for work. There's great work opportunities, which we'll talk about later, in Folsom, which is just about 15-20 minutes down the hill. So no matter how you slice it, Shingle Springs is in a great spot to be a bedroom community for Sacramento. And a lot of our residents in Shingle Springs do in fact work down the hill in El Dorado Hills, Folsom, or the greater Sacramento area. So one of the things the residents really like about Shingle Springs is how close it is to everything. Now, not just work. You can pop right up the hill 15 minutes and be in Placerville, or go north 15 or 20 minutes and be in Coloma and Lotus for great recreation. And you're just about an hour or so from the closest ski resort, which makes it a pretty great place to live even on the weekends. Now, when it comes to discussing the location of Shingle Springs, we have to mention Cameron Park, California. Now, for out-of-towners, Cameron Park and Shingle Springs are kind of indistinguishable. You really can't tell where one ends and the other begins. But for locals, they'll know that Cameron Park and Shingle Springs are separated essentially by the lot size that the homes are on. In the greater Cameron Park area, all of the homes tend to be, for the most part, on 3/10 of an acre. They are neighborhood, more suburban style homes on smaller lots. Now, 3/10 of an acre is a big lot for any of you who are moving from suburbia in, say, San Jose or LA or the greater San Francisco Bay Area. But for up here, 3/10 of an acre isn't that big of a lot. Versus Shingle Springs, which is right next door to Cameron Park, has big lot sizes. We're talking lots of 1 acre lots, lots of 5 acre lots, lots of 10 acres lots, and lots of bigger ranches on even over 10 acres. So if you like everything Cameron Park has to offer, but you just want more acreage underneath you and you have a slightly larger budget, then Shingle Springs is a great place to look. As such, when we talk about Shingle Springs, it has a lot of what Cameron Park has to offer. And that leads us right into our pro number 2, which is great shopping and restaurants. Look, for a little commuter town up in the foothills, Cameron Park has everything you need. All of the grocery stores that you need, including even higher end markets like the Forklift. You have great restaurants there like Wally's Pizza Bar and Los Pinos Mexican food, even little burrito shops. My personal favorite, the Mill House at Moonraker Brewery, which is just an awesome place if you're a family with young kids to go. The kids can run and play in the woods while the adults have a beer and a nice meal. It's just an awesome place to hang out. If you're living in Cameron Park, there's no need to head out of town to go grocery shopping or go to a great restaurant. You have everything you need right there in town, which makes it a very convenient place to live. And as I said, Shingle Springs is right there next door to Cameron Park, and it has access to all of that too. So if we're talking about shopping and restaurants, technically speaking, almost none of it will be in Shingle Springs, but it is in Cameron Park, which is right next door, and you have access to all of that, which makes Shingle Springs a really great place to live. Look, at this point, you might be wondering who I am and why you should be listening to me about Shingle Springs, real estate, or anything at all, really, and it's a pretty fair question. My name's Rich Curtis. I'm with eXp Realty, and I've been selling homes here in the foothills for nearly 20 years, in markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market insanity and everything in between. My goal with this channel is to help you make the highest quality real estate decisions you can from the comfort of your couch. So to that end, let's jump right back into the pros and cons of living in Shingle Springs. Pro number 3 when living in Shingle Springs is recreation. There are great recreational opportunities in Shingle Springs and Cameron Park. Now there is the Cameron Park CSD or Community Services District, which is a big complex with a huge outdoor swimming pool that you can swim in, a public pool for the summers. There are also extensive meeting rooms and classrooms and meeting spaces there for local clubs and for classes, soccer clinics, learn to knit classes, anything you can imagine. The CSD has it, and it's a great resource for the community. Now, in addition to the CSD, we also have great parks in Cameron Park. You have Cameron Park Lake, which has tennis courts, and the lake itself there for boating and fishing and walking and hiking and jogging around. It's not a place I'd probably swim in, but it is a place you can take your kayak out and go fishing on the lake. And it's a wonderful spot right in the heart of Cameron Park, which again is right next to Shingle Springs. Easy from anywhere in Shingle Springs, a 5 to 15 minute drive, and you're at the lake. There are other great parks there too, like Krista McCullough Park with its soccer fields and playground, and a really awesome skate park for the kids if your kids are into that. And my family's personal favorite, Rasmussen Park, which also has soccer fields, a great play area for the kids, and then a wide open upper area for mountain biking, along with a really cool little pond area to hike and bike around. Now, do be advised that there is some proposed development that would remove that upper area and pond area and turn it into homes. There are some locals that are fighting that. As of now, the development isn't happening, but it likely could or will in the future, so that part of that park will go away. But in the meantime, it is just an awesome place to spend a day with the family. So no matter what you're into, Cameron Park has amazing recreation right in town, and Shingle Springs has access to all of that. Now, if you want to get in the car and go a little bit further, you can go that 15 to 20 minute drive north to Coloma and Lotus with tons of hiking, mountain biking, whitewater rafting, whitewater kayaking, all of that stuff right there available for you. If you want to drive the hour up the hill, you've got ski resorts in the winter. If you want to drive just 25 minutes up the hill, you've got Apple Mountain Golf Course, which is a great golf course to enjoy. So no matter what you're into, Shingle Springs has great access to recreation right next door in Cameron Park and in the greater western slope of the foothills. All right, now we've come to the part of the video where I ask you for a small favor. It has come to my attention that over 90% of you who are watching these videos and getting great information from them are not yet subscribed to the channel. So if you have a second, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another video with crucial information to help you choose where to land in El Dorado County for your family. Subscribing is always free. You can cancel it at any time, and it really helps the channel. All right, now let's get back to deciding whether Shingle Springs is the right spot for your family. Pro number 4 of living in Shingle Springs is larger lot size and acreage. Like I said before, Cameron Park right next door is on mostly 1/3 of an acre lots. There are some bigger ones, but for the most part, it's about 1/3 of an acre. So if you like everything Cameron Park has to offer, but you really want an acre, 5 acre, 10 acres, or the sky is the limit, there's some really big spreads down like Old Frenchtown Road and those parts of Shingle Springs. If that's what you're looking for, it's available right there in Shingle Springs with all of the great things in Cameron Park right next door as well. So a lot of people that come to me and they really like the commute location of Cameron Park, and they really like the shopping and the restaurants and all of that, but they had their dream of having a bigger property or a larger ranch, then Shingle Springs is where we start looking. So if that describes your family, you want to be close to the action, but have a lot of acreage around you, then Shingle Springs might be your jam. All right, pro number 5, and the last pro on our list today is great schools. The Shingle Springs area has excellent schools, whether it be traditional schools with Camarado Springs or Blue Oak, or our Montessori school with the Shingle Springs California Montessori Project, or the high school, Ponderosa High School. It has excellent educational options for your kids. And if you go on greatschools.org, you'll find the vast majority of the schools down there rank an 8 out of 10 or higher on greatschools.org. So there are excellent educational opportunities for your kids, even alternative educational opportunities for your kids right there in the Shingle Springs Cameron Park area. Now look, maybe you're not a family that puts your kids in traditional schools and you're one of our homeschool families. Well, the Foothills is a really homeschool positive place. And in the greater Shingle Springs Cameron Park area, you will find a lot of homeschool options and a lot of pod options for socialization for your homeschool kids. All right, as you can see from the pros list, I think Shingle Springs and Cameron Park area is a great place to live, which has some of the best of what Northern California towns have to offer for you and your family. But look, no place is perfect. Every place has their downsides and their cons, and things are important to know before you move there in case one of these is a deal breaker for your family. So to make sure it's the right place for your family, let's get on with talking about the cons. Con number one of living in the Shingle Springs area is heat. Shingle Springs is at a lower elevation than some of our other foothills towns, and as such, it's a little bit hotter there. Now, what do I mean by hot? I mean in the 90s a good chunk of the summer and triple digits for a fair few days as well. So if you don't like hot summers, Shingle Springs might not be the place for you. Now, like I said, there are great ways to beat the heat in Shingle Springs. You do have the pool at the CSD, you do have the Cameron Park Lake, and just up in the Coloma Lotus area, not too far away, you have the South Fork of the American River. So there's plenty of places to get out and get by some water and get cooled off that are really fun in the summer. But no matter how you slice it, if you don't like hot summers, you're not gonna like living in Shingle Springs. Con number two of living in Shingle Springs is fog. And I know this one seems a little silly, who cares, fog, but there's really not much in the way of fog here in the foothills. It just so happens that as you're coming down from Placerville, when you hit the Shingle Springs Cameron Park area, it kind of bottoms out into a little valley before going down the hills again to El Dorado Hills, and that little valley is the fog belt up here. It collects fog, and it can, on some mornings, be pretty bad, really limit the visibility on the freeway. Now, it's never been something that bothers me very much. When I hit the fog in Cameron Park, Shingle Springs, I slow down, and it's over in a couple of minutes. You're literally out of it and heading back down the hill. So it's not that big of an inconvenience to me, but it is something that over the 20 years I've been selling homes here, I've had some clients buy down there and say, wow, man, I did not expect the fog. Where is that coming from? So just so you know, in the Shingle Springs Cameron Park area, especially right along Highway 50, it is a little mini fog belt on some mornings, and it's something you'll have to deal with. If you don't like fog, you don't like driving in foggy conditions, and you're going to be commuting every day from Shingle Springs down the hill to Sacramento, say, it might be something to consider. Look, if by the end of this video you still aren't sure if Shingle Springs is right for you, or Cameron Park, or you want more information on some of our other foothills towns and you just can't decide, feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below. I've been selling homes here for nearly 20 years, and I've helped hundreds of families just like yours decide where to land in El Dorado County, and I'm always happy to help. All right, now back to the pros and cons of living in Shingle Springs. Con number three of living in Shingle Springs is high home prices. Now, look, this is always a matter of perspective depending on where you're coming from. So locally here, this is an area of higher home prices. Now, if you're coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, where you're averaging, or your median home prices are 1.4 to 1.7 million, or the LA area where your median home price is about 1.4 million, this is going to seem like a relative bargain. But compared to some other communities up here, it is a higher priced home area, with a median home price in Shingle Springs as the recording of this video in the winter of 2024 of $749,000. Now, right next door, the community of Cameron Park is at a median home price of just $709,000. 15 minutes up the hill in Placerville, you have a median home price of $505,000. The greater Sacramento area as a whole has a median home price of $516,000, and downtown Midtown, in the heart of the action in downtown Sacramento, has a median home price of about $720,000, just to put it into perspective. So why does Shingle Springs have a higher median home price? Pretty much because of the acreage. These homes are on larger lots, larger acreage, and as such, they cost more. Also, with that much room, people tend to build bigger homes, and we have a lot of really nice, large custom homes on acreage in Shingle Springs, and as such, it commands a higher price than the other areas nearby. So it's something to consider. If you don't need the acreage with Shingle Springs, then you can get everything great about Shingle Springs in Cameron Park with a median home price of almost $50,000 less. So if you are on a tighter budget, Shingle Springs might not be for you, as it is a higher median home price for the area than other communities. If budget isn't a real problem for you and you've been really dreaming of that big acreage home, then Shingle Springs might be perfect for you. Con number 4 of living in Shingle Springs is fire insurance. Now look, if you live in California, you know, this doesn't just affect us here. If you're in Ventura, which has been just ravaged by horrible fires the last few years, you know fire insurance is really expensive. If you're in the Oakland Hills, you know fire insurance is really expensive. So this isn't just an El Dorado County problem, but when you're comparing Cameron Park to Shingle Springs, the homes are going to be one bump more rural. The homes are going to be larger, more expensive, and on larger acreage, and as such, they're going to have a higher fire insurance cost. So what does this look like in dollars and cents? Well, if you're coming from, say, a suburban area in the Bay Area, you might be paying $1,200, $1,500 a year for your hazard insurance. If you're in downtown Placerville, you might be paying $2,000 or $3,000 a year for your hazard insurance. If you're in rural Shingle Springs with a larger home on acreage, your minimum is going to be $5,000 to $6,000 a year in annual premiums for your homeowner's insurance. And if it's a bigger, more expensive custom home on larger acreage and it's deeper down into the forest, then it can easily get over $10,000 a year annual premiums for fire insurance. So this one's no joke. It's something you have to consider. It adds a lot of money to your monthly payments, and it is an important criteria in comparing and deciding where you want to live in the foothills. Con number 5, and the last con on our list, is that Shingle Springs is more rural than you think. Now, because of its proximity to Cameron Park, and because Cameron Park is kind of a suburban bedroom community with grocery stores and restaurants and all of that, you can kind of feel like or assume or get lulled into thinking that Shingle Springs is really kind of a suburban place, and it's not. It is a very rural place, and the deeper down into Shingle Springs and the more acreage of a home you purchase, the more rural it's going to feel. So you are still going to be driving 2-lane rural roads to get out to the highway, and that means dealing with rural traffic, like getting stuck between a farmer and his goats that got out, getting stuck behind a farmer with a big load of hay on that's driving slow, getting stuck behind a tourist in a Winnebago that doesn't know how to drive curvy roads. You're going to deal with all of that kind of rural thing in Shingle Springs, and you're going to deal with it more than you would, say, in a Cameron Park, and certainly probably more than where you're coming from if you're coming from a suburban environment. So it's something to know when you've heard about Cameron Park and then you're thinking about Shingle Springs because you're seeing some prettier houses over there. Just know Shingle Springs is a little bit more rural than you think, so you better be up for rural living if you're going to move here. All right, that wraps up our discussion of the pros and cons of living in Shingle Springs, California. I hope this has helped you decide whether Shingle Springs is right for your family or not. But maybe you want a little more information on its sister community right next door. So for that, you can click this video right here for the pros and cons of living in Cameron Park, California. Maybe you want to compare this area to a slightly more rural place just up the hill. You can click this video right here that compares Cameron Park versus living in Placerville. And maybe you just want to see some pros and cons of some of the other foothills communities to see where the right place for your family might be. You can click this playlist right here for the pros and cons of our other foothills communities. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for making it to the end with me, and I'll see you on the next one.